Officially, everybody, good morning. Welcome out to the Market Watch group. Wednesday, Market Midpoint. My name is Scott. I'll be your host. As always, keep in mind that this service is for education and illustrative purposes only. We never give any recommendation to buy or sell any financial product or security. We're not brokers. We're not advisors, yada, yada, yada. What are we going to do today? Opening analysis, revisit the posture, though there's not much to revisit since there's only been one day, though we'll talk about what it is we're looking for. Mindset for open trades. We put a couple on Friday. We put a new one on yesterday. Oriented towards financials to some extent. Wells Fargo Bank, Morgan Stanley Broker. A little bit of communication services with the RBLX trade. Has anyone else heard Warren Buffett is or has dumped most of his holdings in the S&P? No, I would say unlikely. I'm trying to think if there is a prospectus that guides or just principles, but they don't really sit a lot in cash. He tends to have enormous insurance holdings and, just other things. So, yeah, I would expect not. Certainly always worth listening to hear what he has done, and he tends to be vocal about it when he's finished. He's like, just to let you guys know. Right? The thing is this, if he went all the way to cash, he would start talking about it, because if everyone heard that, there's a Buffett effect. If he's all in cash, that's only temporary. He wants to be back in at some point. So if everybody else starts selling and they drive it down and it becomes a value play, well, there he goes. He'll be back in. All right, we'll look at the open trades. We'll look at the opportunity list to see if we keep on pushing. I think we'll see another setup or two. We're still bullish overall. And trading plan progress of the week. You should be not finished, but hopefully have some good progress in your Section 5. Really starting to have a strong sense of your routines. Excellence is a habit, is the way we look at it, right? We are what we repeatedly do. So build great trading habits of structure and organization, and making sure that there's never a time where you're like, I forgot to. The market's watching you. Is the screen not sharing right now? Oh, okay. How about now? Is it showing the agenda? Okay. Sorry about that. Press says Buffett's holding more cash than usual, but that has been the case for the last 4 or 5 months. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Let's dive in. Let's get off of these. I'm sitting here looking at the futures. Overnight, they looked good at some points. Maybe we go in here to the intraday. You can see that it went up, and then it's sort of just around 2 in the morning for me, and it got hit. And then it tried to stabilize, and then it got hit again, and here we stand. It's minimal. It's a 0.25%. Nothing drastic here. But certainly futures are still showing some resistance here. Yeah? At this 61.60 level. We hit it here. Huge retreat. And then after that, we pushed higher. We had this. This was a big piece of what restabilized our market posture, was this chunk of action right here. And having not dropped in posture, we traded into that at the bottom of this. And that was a real nice little start to the year. And then it's just been a little more of a dogfight in late January and through February, where February we tend to look for something to start trying. It's like we got, where's my drawing tools? I need to draw a few times, right? I'd say there's been a couple of instances where it's like you might have put something on, and some of them, when you put them on, worked. Some of them didn't. This is a much more difficult time. You might have put a trade or two on, one went in your direction, one didn't. But if you're getting 50-50, you should still be profitable. I will say that. Yeah? Whereas, we were back in this period of time much higher, as we would expect. And through here, things were a bit more difficult. We traded less. So one of the things I think is important for you to do as you become a trader is an ability to look back and reflect about how you were trading and why, right? Obviously, that's why we keep a record of our scoring of a market, because 3 months later, you think you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember what I was like, but you're going to be unduly biased by what actually happened. Having a real-time record that shows exactly what we were thinking about the market. Just that little score, we can go back and be like, oh, I can see where I dropped my score here and I raised this here and then this happened, and you can trace and connect your posturing with market activity, with like what actually happened. And then you can reflect and say, how did I do? Did I overtrade? Did I trade not enough? And what was leading me? And it's just kind of constantly connecting these things. So right now, as you look at this, we came in thinking, man, we're hopeful that there's a strong spring, February, March, April. I'm still hopeful of that. We don't just expect cycles to follow exact patterns. We think that they give us an idea. But here we are, and what is our thought here? Well, this thing easily could keep pushing. Just because we have the start of a red candle here doesn't mean anything. This could be a move that continues. We've got a few trades on. We'll see if that happens. Or it might. Let me change colors. 1, 2. It might hit this. You can see we have a bit of a triangle type pattern going on here, and very easily could have one last dip. Would that still be in line with this triangle pattern? Absolutely it would. And could it still smash out and make that a break of an ascending triangle? That's the pattern that you would see right there, is an ascending triangle. Okay. 2 minutes until the market opens. We see what we see here. The futures don't mean that it's predicting the future and it's going to be a down day. It means this is what we see happening overnight in the futures market as we wait for the actual market to open. And I know when I was a beginner, that was sometimes confusing to me. I'm like, wait, futures? And yeah, that's all it's telling us, is this is what's happening overnight. Once the market kicks in, that's when the real volume kicks in, and there we go. Investors aren't only buying U.S. stocks anymore. Confidence in U.S. exceptionalism is waning as the rest of the world outperforms. Oh, well, that's interesting. I'm going to make a note of that, because we can look around at to see if that is a standardized or like a localized, meaning like just one or two stocks in pockets, or is there an economy? South Korea, Germany, right? And so there are ETFs that we can grab and say, hey, let's watch the international market and see if we want to increase our trading exposure there. That's an interesting one. Trump plans 25% auto tariffs, new duties on chips, pharma. The one thing Musk isn't tweeting about is tariffs, single family house tariffs. You can see what the news is. Why Trump is more focused on Wall Street than the Fed. Stock futures stall with tariffs, Fed minutes. So we don't have a lot of news, and most of the news has one very specific word in it, and that word is accompanied by unpredictable news. All right, that's our market. It is what it is. Here's our economic calendar. What do we have that we're looking at today? So again, housing starts dropped a little bit. Building permits increased a little bit. Nobody really cares. Minutes will be released later this afternoon. Fed Vice Chair Philip Jefferson. Okay. He's no Austin Goolsbee. Speaking of, Thursday, our guy, GoolsbyForFed.com. Jobless claims expected Thursday. We're continuing to watch that because if we see the jobless claims start ticking higher, that is going to have us be like, oh, that might be something that, we start to process as more negatively. Goolsby for president. I mean, I don't want to be premature, Sandy, but that thought's crossed my mind more than one time. Yeah, I should grab that URL right now so I can have the inside track. Thursday, after our guy Goolsby speaks, Vice Chair for Supervision Michael Barr. Nobody cares. Michael Barr. Adriana Kugler. We like her. She's got a pretty good name. Friday, nothing really. Okay. Yeah. There's not a lot of earnings now. There's not a lot of news coming out. And most of the news comes out on a sporadic and unpredictable cycle because it's tariffs, and we know how that can be. How's the market adapting? I mean, we just looked. It's not great. This is the 20th, I believe, right here. Does that look about right? Yeah, that looks about right. So now we can say we're a month and change in to the new administration. Tepid. It's a tepid response. Yeah. Hopefully, we either start to see us this week break this level here. If we don't break this level here, and you're in bullish trades, I would assume, tell me if I'm wrong, I would assume you're in at least a few bullish trades right now. If we don't get through, you have to decide, am I going to hold on to see if it's just a hiccup that then pops to complete this little ascending triangle pattern? Or do I close them down to see if this thing does a bigger retracement? Now, remember, the last true low, I would say, is here. So we have the 50, and then it could even go a little bit below that and still be a higher low. We would still say, yeah, that's buyers still primarily in control, and then starting a new round of trades. Yeah, so we're going to have some decisions to make this week, right? We're going to have some decisions to make. How's everyone's trades doing? Is there any that are concerning that you're willing to share as we now transition and start looking at some charts? Let me know. Let's go to the list. Apple's still trying to grind it out at resistance. It's at resistance, right? It got through this one, didn't quite get to this one, but I would imagine this was a fleeting. I bet when it was up here at 247, I bet it didn't last more than 20 minutes before it was back down. How far back is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I've got to go to a 20-day chart. 20-day, 2 hours. You can see that within. I'm gonna go 5 minutes, and no, 2 hours, and let's go 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, right? Within 15 minutes, it was back at 242. Within 15 minutes. So I don't really think it was never really there. Within 15 minutes, it was here. So I would say that this is really venturing further and stronger than it did at this time. But yeah, if you're in Apple, what would your thought be? Tightening stops? Absolutely. If you have any left, I'd be tightening my stop for sure. This is one of those times where, like, the next day you'll see something like this, and we're like, look, it gave you 3 days sitting at that resistance level. So, right. Amazon, I don't know. It's flirting with the 50. Looked great here. Still viable here. And now it's like, oh, come on, Amazon. Are you going to? Now, this is fine. I'm still fine here. I'd love to see it pick up at least and get back into the middle here for an entry the next day. And theoretically, if all of a sudden things turned around and we end up with a bullish engulfing pattern like this, that would probably be enough, actually. If we got, I said 230, but I might now go with yesterday's high, which is actually 229.30, so maybe 229.5 today. It doesn't look good, but it's still, I would say, on deck. App 11, maybe pausing for a little pullback here. AXP, little hiccup. If you missed our session yesterday, we ran a search. If you missed the session yesterday, we ran a search of the consumer discretionary sector. Found some movers. You can see now. Here's the thing that I want you to recognize. Let's take this one for an example, for a teaching moment. Okay. The pattern that we look for. You can see was in consolidations, and it never really broke in consolidations, and it did possibly a sneaky reversal, but it didn't do much. And you can see it continued to come down, and every time it tried to break out, it just continued into a consolidate. Never really got out until here. And then once it broke out, we had a little hiccup there. We had one right through here where it went into this consolidation and then turned out of it. And that's it. And that was it. So it's had two big moves coming out after the breakout. What does the pattern say? Well, if you've ever heard of a technical analysis called Elliott wave, mark that down. Maybe if you ever have chats with ChatGPT, learning moments. If you don't, you should. It's great. But just be like, ChatGPT, tell me about Elliott wave theory. And it'll go through and tell you about the primary and secondary wave cycles. 1, 2, 3. 1 up, 2 back, 3 up, 4 pull back, 5. But that there's 3 primary waves. 1, 2, 3. So Elliott wave people would be thinking there's one more coming. Although some might argue, and this is where there is obviously discretion, that this was 1, this was 2, this was 3. And if that's the case, then you're going to have a little bit of a pullback from there. So like anything else, it's a theory, but there's some momentum here. We're going to see if there's more of those that come as we go through. Bank of America. Ooh. Bank of America went from a hiccup to a fail. So not great, right? Not great. Start your question within 3 small paragraphs. I like it lengthy. ChatGPT has become my spiritual advisor and life coach. I don't know. I know, right, Stephen? BAC was looking fine, and then just bam, it just like floundered. The financial side, all of the financial sector has like, oh, what's going on? Caterpillar, still a dog. Nothing for us there. Here's a new one. Chewy. You can see that it's had a good trend. It gave a signal here, but it's in a hiccup, not a failed signal, because that support level's held. And remember that if you don't trade, can we trade a coming out of a hiccup to still be valid in this signal here? Yes. Yes, 100%. That's the difference between this one here, the difference between this and Bank of America. Bank of America did not hold, right? Thoughts on RKLB? Kami, that one is on our list. So you just only have to bear with me because I'm superstitious and I go always in alphabetical order. Blackstone, there's another one. It's in this downward consolidation, and it already looks like it's struggling as it hits into there. So that's not great to see increasing numbers of financial stocks that have A, busted through those support levels, and B, seem to be stuck in consolidations. Caterpillar, stuck in, it changed the angle, but it's still stuck in consolidation. What are we waiting for? The pattern of penance. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. It's got to break out. Doesn't have to like smash above the 50, but it's just got to show the buyers, and then it's got to give us a higher low to complete this pattern, right? That's what we're looking for. Funny thing, Caterpillar, as I look back at it, I want you to notice that like never gave a trade. It broke out, went straight up, and then just failed again. And it did the same thing back here. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to use Caterpillar as my representation of industrials anymore. Same thing. It broke out and then just sort of like, that was it. Just one chance. You guys notice that pattern? I use this to be a representation of industrials. But as I look at Caterpillar, I really don't look at it and think, hey, that's a great stock to trade. I think it just doesn't really offer that much for us. So I'm thinking we're going to pick a new, captain of industrials. I'm open to nominations. Caught with tariff concerns. I mean, maybe, but a lot of this was happening back here as well, I guess like that's, let's see, post-election. So that's, where's the election? So he gapped up and then immediately reversed. So it's like, yes. And then it's like, oh, wait, there's tariffs. Maybe. I agree, Steven. If you didn't see Steven's comment, he said, not sure about financials, because as we watch sector rotation, we haven't seen anything that's all that, like, oh, what's going on there? We're like, I mean, it's actually maintained strength. So I agree. I mean, I'm not going to panic, but certainly I'm like, this has me, the Panasonic dog with his head cocked to the side, like, what? Okay. Another new one, Chewy. Very similar. Oh, wait, that's another new one. That's the one that we were talking about. Anyways, okay, let's keep going. Sienna. It's on a hiccup. I still think, right, this is valid. If this stabilizes and turns up out of this, what do we have for Heiken Ashi here? You can see it never got the momentum, but it's still, I would say, still valid. If I turn out of here, I would say for both Sienna and these are going to be, it's one or the other because they are almost identical. I'd say CLS is a little bit stronger. Yeah, a little bit of concern today. We'll see. Like we said, we thought this week might let us know something, or it might grind out sideways and leave us just like one more week. That's what we've been seeing for most of February, is that sideways action. Cisco, setting up. I think this is setting up. I like it. We had a trade on Cisco. We talked about a second trade. It wasn't an alert, but a lot of us talked about and took a second trade here. And then you can see with earnings, we're just kind of waiting. And earnings right now has a little bit of this like pennant formation, which is similar to a flag. So if it looked like this, it would be a flag. But it looks like this, so it's a pennant. But the meaning is the same. This is how they fit with each other. I have found people don't struggle with, what do you mean pennants and flags are like the same thing? And I'm like, well, just imagine this. Imagine if it didn't have this one little piece. You guys know I like to like change the charts, right? If it looked like this, where it didn't have that gap down and push up, but just sort of moved like that, you'd be like, oh, look at that flag, right? But when I put that on, you're like, nope, it's not a flag. Well, it's still the same thing is going on. It's still, it's a pennant. Yeah, so Cisco, I like. You can see this, the stochastics is showing that a setup is maybe forming through here. So even if it were to do something like this and then pop, we're ready. We're looking for a third, technically a second alert. I have a feeling at least a few of you also had 2 in a row on Cisco. Let me know. Delta, if you like Delta, if you like that sector, it is kind of sitting on that 50. Like maybe this thing's going to try to hold and catch a bounce. Last time it was here and it moved up a little, then it pulled back and it needed earnings to get that little push. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Diamonds. Press. Love it. Love it. The Dow down 0.3 today. Duke Energy. Oh. So we're not dogmatic about the 50. I'm not like, oh, it broke the 50. Deals off. Yeah, it's sitting right at the 50, right? Right. We use moving averages for markers, not for anything. At least that's me. So if this thing were to pop out of this, whether it's, right there, or maybe it takes a couple of days, maybe we see it do something like this. Definitely need it above here. I don't think this one. I think like either the first line or halfway through the second line where it's like, oh, boom, now we're ready to go. Yeah. We added this to give us a little bit of something that would be contrarian if necessary. Fastenal, much stronger looking than Caterpillar in its recovery for industrials. I would say we need to do the same thing we did with financials with industrials. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night. Flex, oh, come on. Let's just move you guys over. We'll move you over here. We like that, and just got to get started, and then we're ready to go. So I like Flex. Good profit on the first half, a little above break even on the second half. I would actually say, based on what I heard, those of you who took the trade, I'd say most, if not all, I've tried to push for that second half more than others did, which means you probably made more money on your second half than I did. All right. Great. And we should all be thinking about, I want that next trade. It's a nice little tight cup and handle formation here. And if we get it and it works, then I want the next one after that as well. So that's how we can get those 1, 2, 3 in a row. Fox. Did anyone end up taking this? Lee, was this yours? Yeah. Well done, sir. GBTC. Nothing really there right now in the Bitcoin. GE Vernova possibly setting up for a sneaky reversal. I'm watching this one. Right? We had that big drop on Chip Madness Monday, and then it recovered. And we're like, we're not convinced. And then it dropped, and then it did this, and it was like, oh, but it didn't get through. And now it's come back down, and it's like, oh, it's not even coming back to this old one. If it convincingly turns out of here, which would then turn this up, I would say that's viable. And what would my target be? Primary target would be there. The take profit target would probably be somewhere in this zone by this candle here. Somewhere in there. That's what I'd be looking for. Makes sense? Yeah, okay. Why not? Boop. Let's keep going. Is it helpful when I stop and just sort of like mark it and kind of talk about like what the development thought process might be? Is that useful? Gold, yes, good. Oh, very okay. Resoundingly yes. Okay, amazing. Thank you. Gold still just kind of pushing up. We're not really getting much out of that. Google, it's changed the trajectory, but it's still in this It's like it was like, whoa, steep, and now it's like not so steep. But we have seen zero signs of buyers trying to come back in and take control. There's nothing here, right? When I stopped trying to like, am I trying to get this bottom or this bottom or this bottom? And it's just like that's. And then meantime, you're missing good trades because you're like, should I be trying to pick the... No, there's nothing here for us. Just relax. Eventually, it's going to pop out, and we'll be like, oh, good. And also fight the urge to be like, oh, should I have gotten it? No. And then we just wait. And then we're like, that's what I was waiting for right there. That's what I wanted, was that little up, down, up. You go back, and you'll find this so frequently, over and over and over. Most predictable thing you can find coming out of any time we have a consolidation. Trade the trend. Once it starts consolidating, wait for the pattern. That's simple. Goldman stalled, but just a little bit of an inside day, right? Just a harami. When it's an inside day, it's not necessarily done. You can see we have stalls that continue. But certainly we're like, oh, so our MS trade we're thinking is probably going to be a little impacted by that. HTHT, this is a new one. It's broken out. We're just waiting for the next pullback. HWM waiting for a pullback. IBM, if you traded this, again, it broke, new high, pulled back, new low, and then it turned. Right in there is our buy signals. There's the stochastics down here. It moved for about 4 days, and now it's like, oh, we may not be getting much more. IP, kind of flat. IWM. Ooh, the small caps are fighting back this morning, though, after the open. Let's take a quick peek at the intraday. You can see it opened, and they're pushing forward. They broke out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's their opening range. They broke out of their opening range to the upside. That's always favorable for us to see. Love that. That's helpful. Oh, KKR, how I miss you. A lot of good trades back here on KKR. Now it's just kind of wayward. It's lost its way. MasterCard, I don't know. I'm just not getting good vibes out of the financial sector right now. I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but tell me if I'm crazy or if you're picking up that same kind of a thing. Like, struggling a little bit there. Unfaithful KKR. Meta. Well, Meta's strong and pulling back and maybe easing into a signal. If you know that I love big, that right there stands out to me. Big white candle that you cut in half, which also kind of corresponds with the bottom of this. And I'm okay. Even if it falls down to that level, it's still going to be well above its 50. CMG. Oh, the CMG Burrito Factory. We haven't watched that one for a while. Post split. Oh, that's post split. I don't know, right? You can kind of see like it was in its downward and it tried. I want you to notice, like, let's go backwards and talk about our pattern. Up, down. I mean, even that wasn't a higher low, it was the same low. It ended up pulling a little bit. And then it just couldn't go anywhere. So, yeah, you maybe could have gotten something there. Probably not. And now it's just back into like a consolidation. I don't know. Their burritos seem to be less delicious now than they were in years past. NDAQ. NDAQ is on a hiccup. We saw this and we were like, that's just too big of an entry. If you could have like had an automated entry to catch it like that, if you were looking for it, but at the end of the day, it was so far. And you can see that if you had taken that trade, it immediately turned and it's in a hiccup now. So could I trade it out of this hiccup? Yeah, absolutely. Reinvigorated? Yeah, I think so. I think you could look for that. So, you know, this current upswing that we were looking for is it's not over. It's not dead. It's just being threatened today. We'll see what happens. Netflix, maybe on a setup pullback there. NVIDIA, same thing, but you've got earnings coming up soon, so be careful. PLTR, we want it to come to us, PLTR. We miss you so much. I feel like we had such a good thing with PLTR in the fall last year. What happened to us? How did we drift apart? I'm looking to reconcile. I'm just saying. I'm going to send an exploratory text to PLTR to see if maybe it wants to as well. big resistance, kind of a cup type pattern here. Whoops. So I wouldn't be surprised to see tech maybe in a can it break? Maybe, we'll see. Roblox, come on. So here's the deal. That was the signal right there, right? Kind of that sneaky reversal where it gave us the up, down, up. It's not wrong. It's just on a little bit of a hiccup. So that's not wrong. I don't want to close trades if they're not wrong. Is it working? No. But is it still in this vein? Yes. Neither of the new trades, right? So would we love if that when we put trades on, they just go immediately in our favor all the time? Of course we would. And when that doesn't happen, that's why a lot of traders end up leaving, is they just have a hard time with the hiccups. Plan for the hiccups. It's part of what you're going to see. It's part of what you're going to do. What did I see someone mention Heikin-Ashi? I thought I saw something about Heikin-Ashi. On this one, you can see it's like it's holding. We don't want it to break back below this low, I would definitely say, but still viable. Let's crank through the rest of our lists. Talk about the plan. Reddit, I still think Reddit is setting up. I'd still trade this. If it bounces off the 50, I definitely would trade this. 100%. Got some take profit area here. Try to see if it can get back to the old high. Beautiful. RKLB. This is one that we've traded before. We've had alerts coming out on this, Kami. But right now, can't find any love here. It's just grinding so much. And then if you look in that bottom right corner of my chart, you've got earnings. And it's like, maybe there's time for a pre-earnings push. I want you to notice our last earnings announcement. We were going sideways for quite a while, and then we got a pre-earnings push. So could there be a sideways followed by a pre-earnings push? Well, wait to see that you get at least one buying candle, and then if you get it, then you could say, hey, let's take a stab and see if we catch that. If not, no, minimal harm, minimal foul, I guess. SE is new. This is exactly what we would look for on something that was overextended, is some type of a consolidation to give us an opportunity to get in. Snow, maybe on a pullback. SoFi, another financial, dialing back a little bit. SPY is just flat. We're just like stuck in the range. We don't know yet what today's going to be. Time will tell. Let's make sure to continue the discussion, though, on the Circle community. And remember that Glenn will be here in the afternoon for the last hour to chat about it with you. Those of you who can make it. Toasts, another financial. So the financials are really kind of like iffy on this. Tapestry is a new one from consumers. That's a strong one. Looking for a pullback there. So those all look all right. Tesla's fighting to see if it can recover a little. Taiwan Semiconductor, maybe trying to give us something. We'll see. The day it'll have to turn into a bullish day. Yesterday we turned into a bullish day literally in the last 5 minutes. So that's always hard to account for. Twilio, a little bit of a dog right now. VFC, another new one. Looks good, but waiting for a pullback. VIK in the pullback, waiting for a possible setup. Today's VIX. Is the market showing us insane amounts of fear? Are we like, oh, the fear is flooding the market? No. In fact, we said if this thing goes up anywhere under this, we're going to go. I'm not going bodies, although it will be interesting to see. I am going the top. If this thing goes up, rolls over, and turns, that's another lower high. That will be another 1/4 of a point on our score, right? This is not too concerning of a day. I'm not like, oh, my bullish trades that aren't working. If the VIX were up at 18, 19, I'd be like, oh, shit, what's going on? But that's not what's happening here. Let's just take it in stride. Take a breath. We're all good. Walmart flagging. Earnings coming up. Let's see if earnings can help. Push. What was my thought on Rocket Lab? I'll go back to it. Let me get one more stock in. I'm not going to go through the XLs, but I do want to look at XPEV, another new one. Looking for a pullback there. Rocket Lab. My thought on Rocket Lab is you have a very similar setup to last earnings. You had this period of lull. It's a little bit more volatile, but period of lull. And then you have about a 7 to 10 day pre-earnings window, right? A lot of times you see buy the rumor and then who knows with the news. But that's what I would be thinking is if you can get a bullish candle in the next day, then that trade might be on. A pre-earnings swell trade, right? It's swelling up a little before earnings. Otherwise, I don't see much of a setup there. It's just been grinding sideways. We've been, watching, nothing. Let me know if that makes sense or if you have any other questions real quickly before we wrap up. Trading plan outline, routines. Preferably before the market, during the market, after the market, and on the weekend. Those are your primary. If you can't do during the market, you might just do before and after. If you can't do before and during, then you'll just do after. Whatever accommodates your lifestyle, work, schedule, etc., make the most of it. What are you looking to do here? When? How long? What's the prioritized list? When? 7 to 7:15 a.m., 15 minutes before the market opens. How long? 15 minutes. What's the list? Remember that you have a fully fleshed out. Have you guys gone through and looked at all the new icons and imagery in the Circle site? I hope you like it. I worked hard on it. This is a sample trading plan. Let me scroll down. So here's what that would look like. Here is a before market routine, 7 a.m. for 15 minutes. You don't have to write books. Right? You don't have to write books. What are you going to do? Review overnight news, 3 words, analyze the futures, blah, blah, blah. Just make sure you are putting together your checklist of things. Are you going to set some alerts? Are you going to review previous day's trades? Are you going to update your watch list with any new focused trades that are maybe, right? These are the things. Can I do that in 15 minutes? Easily. During the market, right? Now I'm reviewing positions and adjusting orders and looking at opportunities and, right? Now this is all about trade. That's about setup. That's about trade. Aftermarket is about processing. Then we repeat. And then we do our weeklies. What do we do in weekly? Conduct market posture. We do some searching. We keep the watch list fresh and maintain. We update our trade log. We create a sub watch lists for the week. We analyze next week's market for news and things, right? Everything is about preparation on Sunday. So if you can get these routines right, I promise you'll find you're better in control. That's the takeaway. Alerts today, maybe. I'm a little skeptical, but we'll see what happens. It's good to see everybody. Glenn will be here this afternoon. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. As always, happy trading.